Timothy. Skill 2 and a very good evening, everyone. Welcome back to MSBS Weekly Guided Meditation by Phra Goh. Today is the 11th of November 2025. We would like to extend a great welcome to all new viewers to this channel. MSBS is glad and grateful to have with us 𝐷𝐵 Adhibalo, also known as Phra Goh, to conduct this weekly session. We are continuing on the subject on the Brahma's net, Brahmā Jala Sutta from Digha Nikaya 1. Monday will be leading the homage to the Buddha and taking of 5 precepts for Buddhists. Now let's compose our mind, put our palms together and welcome Monday. Over to Monday.
Okay, thank you, Terence. So we start off with bowing to the Buddha 3 times. First bow, second bow, third bow. Okay, then the opening chant, homage. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. 3 refuges. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. And the 5 precepts. Pāṇātipada vēramani sikkhapaddaṃ samadhiyāmi. Adinādāna vēramani sikkhapaddaṃ samadhiyāmi. Kāmesu micchācārā vēramani sikkhapaddaṃ samadhiyāmi. Musāvādā vēramani sikkhapaddaṃ samadhiyāmi. Suramēraya majjapamādāṭthāna vēramani sikkhapaddaṃ samadhiyāmi. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, good evening to everyone. Tonight we're still continuing this very long sutta. That's why it's called the Digha Nikaya, the long discourse, and it's the first one called the Brahmā net. And this discourse, a short recap. The first portion is about praising the physical, behavioral traits of the Buddha, what kind of livelihood, his activities, the precepts, all his good traits, and the majority of the portion which we are covering now is basically the ideological stance of the Buddha, and they're basically like covering all the religious views in India and what's the Buddha's take on those different doctrinal views. So probably this would be like the interfaith stance of Buddhism. What is the Buddhist perspective on other belief systems? Okay, so we are continuing from where we left off because we may not be able to finish everything this year. Okay, so we talk about this. Okay, next. Terence, next slide. Okay, so now we are going to cover this opinion on annihilationism. Yeah, so I'll just read through the text. There are amongst some contemplatives and Brahmans who are annihilationists, who proclaim the annihilation, destruction and non-becoming of an existing being, sansata, on 7 grounds. And with reference to what? Coming from what are these honorable contemplatives and Brahmans, annihilationists, who proclaim the annihilation, destruction and non-becoming of an existing being on 7 grounds. Okay, so this is at least the widely popular views that the Buddha came across. Okay, next. Okay, so we are at the 51st view. So I think total there are 60 overviews. So now we are at the 51st view. Many different religious views in India. Okay, so the 51st view. There is the case where a certain contemplative or Brahman is of this opinion and this view, when the self that is possessed of form, made of the 4 great elements. Yeah, so the 4 great elements is a pre-Buddhist notion. They believe the whole universe is made of the 4 elements. So this is the earth, fire, wind, water elements. So in our meditation we use these 4 elements. So it's also in Buddhism we call this mindfulness of the body. So part of mindfulness of the body is to be contemplating on the 4 elements. Engendered by mother and father is with the breakup of the body, annihilated, destroyed, and does not exist after death. So a bit like YOLO, you only live once. Okay, it's to this extent that the self is completely exterminated. This is how some proclaim the annihilation, destruction, and non-becoming of an existing being. Okay. So a person can be atheist or agnostic. This is something. This view will kind of encompass this kind of perspective. That means after death, nothing left. Nothing left. Finish. Kosong. Okay. Next. Then 52nd view. Another says to him, "There is, my good man, the self of which you speak. I don't say there's not, but it's not to that extent that the self is completely exterminated. There is another self, divine, possessed of form, on the sensual level, feeding on material food." So this one talks about there's another something like soul, and there's another entity. Once the so-called physical body is destroyed, then this physical body is still existing, feeding on material food, something like wandering spirits. Okay, then so this is the 52nd view. Okay, next. You don't know or see that, but I know it, I see it. So these are the people, maybe they're clairvoyant, able to see those unseen beings. So they believe, after a person died, got this thing flying around, those maybe intermediate state or ghost or spirit. When this self with the breakup of the body is annihilated, destroyed, and does not exist after death, it's to this extent that the self is completely exterminated. This is how some proclaim the annihilation, destruction, and non-becoming of an existing being. So we covered 2 views. So one is totally gone. Then this view, the second view, says that there's something like spirit. After the body is gone, there's something still left behind. Okay, next. And the 53rd one. Another says to him, "There is, my good man, that self of which you speak. I don't say that there's not, but it's not to that extent that the self is completely exterminated. There is another self, divine, possessed of form, mind-made, complete in all its limbs, not destitute of any faculties. So earlier one was a bit more sensual. This one, they say, is a slightly different description. So it talks about mind-made, complete in its limbs, not destitute of any faculties. So this is the something like more complete version. Okay, next. You don't know or see that, but I know it. I see it. Yeah, probably no different realms. When this self with the breakup of the body is annihilated, destroyed, and does not exist after death, it's to this extent that the self is completely exterminated. This is how some proclaim the annihilation, destruction, and non-becoming of an existing being. Right, so this is the third view. Okay, then let's move on to the next one. Okay, then the fourth view. Another says to him, "There is, my good man, that self of which you speak. I don't say that there's not, but it's not to that extent that the self is completely exterminated. There is another self, where with the complete transcending of perceptions of form, with the disappearance of perceptions of resistance, and not heeding perceptions of diversity." So this one talks about maybe formless. If you don't have perception of form, then probably might be the formless kind of realm. Okay, next. Yeah, so yeah, correct. Formless realm, infinite space. So this is the fifth, I would say the fifth jhana. So of course the sutta don't say jhana, they call it the perception of infinite space, or the first formless concentration. One enters and remains in the dimension of the infinitude of space. You don't know or see that, but I know it, I see it. With the self, with the breakup of the body is annihilated, destroyed, and does not exist after death, it's to this extent that the self is completely exterminated. So this person who is able to see people being going to the infinite space probably are living among ascetics. All the ascetics are meditating, then enter concentration, then they pass on, then they enter this formless concentration world. So may not apply to everybody unless you have this concentration. Okay, next. Then the fifth view. Another says to him, "There is, my good man, that self of which you speak. I don't say that there's not, but it's not to that extent that the self is completely exterminated. There is another self, where with the complete transcending of the dimension of infinite space, perceiving infinite consciousness," so that's the second formless concentration. So this infinite consciousness is one realm higher than the infinite space. One enters and remains in the dimension of the infinitude of consciousness. Okay, next. Okay, so in the Thai tradition, if they talk about being aware, stay with the knowing mind. So this knowing is actually consciousness. So if you always stay with the knowing, be aware or mindful of this awareness, it's a precursor to entering this perception of infinite consciousness. Or if a person chant the Buddha or chant the Buddha's name, or maybe in the Mahayana tradition, they talk about the Buddha of infinite life, which is Amitabha Buddha. You keep chanting the name, chanting. So also infinite, so it's around this frequency, infinite consciousness. Okay, you don't know or see that, but I know it, I see it. With this self, with the breakup of the body, is annihilated, destroyed, and does not exist after death. It's to this extent that the self is completely exterminated. This is how some proclaim the annihilation, destruction, and non-becoming of an existing being. Yeah, so the group of practitioners probably practice along these lines, so this fella able to see, everyone go to this perception of infinite consciousness. Okay, so regarding perception of space, then there are few practices which lead to this perception of infinite space. Like some people will tell me, oh, they watch the breath, they don't think of anything, just don't see anything, don't think anything, just feel the breath. Then suddenly, wow, very quiet. Then that might be the perception of space. If the attention or the emphasis is on the volume, the area, the space, then that will lead to this perception of infinite space. Or in our routine, according to this Mettang Sutta, if a person combine compassion together with insight, it will lead to this perception of infinite space also. And for this infinite consciousness, if a person practice appreciative joy combined with insight, it will also lead to this perception of infinite consciousness. Okay, next. So this is the sixth view. Another says to him, there is, my good man, that self of which you speak. I don't say that there is not, but it's not to that extent. The self is completely exterminated. There is another self wherewith the complete transcending of the dimension of the infinitude of consciousness, perceiving there is nothing. One enters and remains in the dimension of nothingness. So this is the third formless concentration, or if you want to talk about jhana, the seventh. So pretty high already. So this dimension of nothingness is the the first type of concentration where our ascetic Gautama, before he got enlightened, learned from this ascetic teacher, this Alara Kalama, this dimension of nothingness. So probably these are the people who proclaim this doctrine. Okay, next. You don't know or see that, but I know it. I see it. If this self with the breakup of the body is annihilated, destroyed, and does not exist after death, it's to this extent that the self is completely exterminated. This is how some proclaim the annihilation, destruction, and non-becoming of an existing being. So this is the view. Okay, next. Okay, so for nothingness, in the sutta, Venerable Sariputta mentioned, if a person want to practice entering this perception or this realm of nothingness, a person needs to be aware of like something like solitude. You go to an empty place, then you must think, empty, nobody around. Whatever you do, there's nothing around. Then if you keep on thinking of nothing all the time, then the mind may enter this realm of nothingness. Or in our routine, the meditation routine we are doing, if a person combine equanimity with insight, it will lead to this realm of nothingness. Alright, so that's the seventh level of concentration. Okay, so let's look at the seventh one. Another says to him, in the seventh view, there is, my good man, that self of which you speak. I don't say that there's not, but it's not to that extent that the self is completely exterminated. There is another self wherewith the complete transcending of the dimension of nothingness. One enters and remains in the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. So this is supposedly the highest formless concentration. So this is the highest level of samsara, this dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. And this is also the second type of concentration which our ascetic Gautama, before he attained enlightenment, learned from this ascetic teacher, Uddaka Ramaputta. He learned this dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. Okay, next. You don't know or see that, but I know it. I see it. Yeah, so probably those who see it are those Uddaka Ramaputta's disciples, because nobody else teaches this. When this self with the breakup of the body is annihilated, destroyed, and does not exist after death, It's to this extent that the self is completely exterminated. This is how some proclaim the annihilation, destruction, and non-becoming of an existing being. Okay, so it's like same repetitive formula. Next. These monks are the contemplatives and Brahmins who are annihilationists, who proclaim the annihilation, destruction, and non-becoming of an existing being on 7 grounds. And whatever contemplatives and Brahmins who are annihilationists, who proclaim the annihilation, destruction, and non-becoming of an existing being, they all do so on one or another of these 7 grounds. There is nothing outside of this. So interestingly, even these views contain an afterlife. It's also classified as annihilationist. Very interesting way of classifying. So except for the first one. So the first view out of the 7 believe, okay, after death, nothing. Then the rest of the 6 views believe there's some kind of unseen entity, ranging from the low spirit world, sensual spirit world, all the way to the formless concentration Brahma worlds. Okay, next. With regard to this, the Tathagata discerns that these 10 points, thus seized, thus grasped at, lead to such and such a destination, to such and such state in the world beyond. That the Tathagata discerns, and he discerns what is higher than that. Okay, so the Buddha says that if a person grasps onto this view, then yes, you might be reborn in those realms. But then the Buddha said, okay, there's something higher than that. And yet discerning that, he does not grasp at it. So the key point is not to grasp even to that view. So even though we so-called Buddhists have claimed that we know something higher, maybe Nibbana, it's just a label. So if you grasp onto this label, then the question is, do you yourself experience Nibbana yet? If you haven't totally released, then we are just basically grasping to label. So the Buddha does not grasp at all, does not grasp at it. And as he is not grasping at it, unbinding, nibbuti, is experienced right within. So as long as you don't grasp to these concepts, then that is true cessation. Knowing as they have come to be, the origination, ending, allure, and drawbacks of feelings, along with the escape from feelings, the Tathagata, monks, through lack of clinging, sustenance, is released. Right, so this is talking about enlightened beings. So only enlightened beings can escape from feelings. The rest of us, not enlightened, will still cling to something. Okay, next. These monks are the Dhammas, deep, hard to see, hard to realize, tranquil, refined, beyond the scope of conjecture. That means you cannot logic. So whatever reason I give to you is just theoretical words only. Okay, subtle, to be experienced by the wise. That means you need to experience it yourself. That the Tathagata proclaims, having directly known and realized them for himself, and that those who, rightly speaking in praise of the Tathagata in line with what is factual, would speak. So if a person wants to praise the Buddha, so this is one of the ideas or one of the doctrinal ideologies that Buddha stands for, which is not grasping and release of the mind. Okay, next. Okay, then the next set of beliefs talks about the self's unbinding in the here and now. So not only Buddhism teach Nibbana, there are many religious teachers in the Buddha's time also teach about Nibbana or Nirvana, depends on which language you're using. Okay, there are monks, some contemplatives and Brahmins, who are proponents of unbinding, Nibbana, in the here and now, who proclaim the highest here and now unbinding of an existing being, sansata, on 5 grounds. So there are 5 views here. And with reference to what? Coming from what? These honorable contemplatives and Brahmins proponents of unbinding in the here and now, who proclaim the highest here and now unbinding of an existing being on 5 grounds. So in Buddhism, we also teach the Dhamma to be seen here and now. So kind of fit to this classification, very close. So let's see what the other proponents talk about in their doctrines. Okay, so the first of the 5, there is the case where a certain contemplative or Brahman is of this opinion, this view, when the self goes about endowed and provided with the 5 strings of sensuality. It's to this extent that the self attains the highest here and now unbinding. So this one talks about enjoying sense pleasure, then this is the highest nirvana. So nirvana means highest happiness. So if a person enjoy the hedonistic material pleasure, this is this first group of belief. They believe this is the highest here and now unbinding. This is how some proclaim the highest here and now unbinding of an existing being. So this is the first belief. Okay, next. Another says to him, "There is, my good man, that self of which you speak. I don't say that there's not, but it's not to that extent that one attains the highest here and now unbinding. Why is that? Because sensuality is inconstant." Starting to sound like Buddhism already. Stressful, subject to change, from its condition of being subject to change and becoming, otherwise arises sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, and despair. Okay, next. But when this self, quite secluded from sensuality, secluded from unskillful qualities, enters and remains in the first jhana, rapture and pleasure born of seclusion, accompanied by directed thought and evaluation, is to that extent that this self attains the highest here and now unbinding. This is how some proclaim the highest here and now unbinding of an existing being. Okay, so there are proponents in the Buddha's time that believe, okay, the first jhana is the highest already. So in Buddhism, the 4 jhanas are just stepping stone. Although it's part of the Noble Eightfold Path under right concentration, it's just like a temporary recharge of the battery. So the real path to liberation is still this right mindfulness, every moment mindful of impermanence. So they get the first part right on the earlier on sensuality being subject to change, inconstant. But first jhana also subject to impermanence. You sit down quiet, maybe some people can enter concentration very quiet, but once you get out, once you open your eyes, this battery will very fast start to drain away, gone. So this jhana is very impermanent also. It may give a lingering, solidified kind of sense of peace for a while, but the battery will drain out. The battery will drain out once you start worrying and thinking and doing a normal chore. You drain out and you go back to square one. So this is the effect on jhanas. Okay, next. Okay, then this is the third view. Another says to him, "There is, my good man, the self of which you speak. I don't say that there's not, but it's not to that extent that one attains the highest here and now unbinding. Why is that? Because precisely what's thought or evaluated there, that's declared to be gross. But when this self, with this stealing of directed thoughts and evaluations, enters and remains in the second jhana." So this one talk about the second jhana. So the second jhana doesn't have this directed thought and evaluation. So a lot of scholars, they interpret directed thought and evaluation as in thinking of your meditation object. So they'll tell you, second jhana, don't think already. Let go of the breath. If let's say the meditation object is the breath, they tell you, let go of the breath. So that's a precursor to formless concentration actually. So actually every moment one should be always mindful of the meditation object. The directed thoughts and evaluation here never mention towards the meditation object. Is that state of mind, directed thoughts and evaluation is present in the first jhana, but is absent in the second jhana. So if a person kind of practices my routine, which we kind of go through, the second jhana is basically the thought cluttering process. So the joy and happiness is still there in the first jhana, but very cluttered, so it feels a bit like obstructed. So the joy and happiness doesn't seem clear, doesn't seem distinct. But in the second jhana, the joy and happiness will appear clearer because of the disappearance of these thought obstructive processes. Okay, next slide. Okay, rapture and pleasure born of concentration, unification of awareness free from directed thought and evaluation, internal assurance. It's to that extent that the self attains the highest here and now unbinding. That is how some proclaim the highest here and now unbinding of an existing being. Right, so this is the third view, which talks about the second jhana. So I'll try to finish this series. Okay, then the next slide. So this will be the fourth view. Another says to him, "There is, my good man, that self of which you speak. I don't say that there's not, but it's not to that extent that one attains the highest here and now unbinding." Why is that? Because precisely that state of mental exhilaration, immersed in rapture there, that's declared to be gross. So in the second level of concentration, there is the factor of rapture or joy in other translations. Okay, next. But when this self with the fading of rapture remains equanimous, mindful and alert, and sensing pleasure with the body, enters and remains in the third jhana, of which the noble ones declare, equanimous and mindful, he has a pleasant abiding. It's to that extent that this self attains the highest here and now unbinding. This is how some proclaim the highest here and now unbinding of the existing being. Right, so this one talks about the third jhana as being the highest. So the third jhana has the factor of fading or rapture. So what's left is happiness, this pleasant abiding. So disappearance of joy, what's left is happiness and equanimity. Okay, next. Okay, so we end this slide. So there's actually one more view, which you will probably know is the fourth jhana if you go by logical sequence. So the next view will say, fourth jhana is the highest. So all the four jhanas is basically just a temporary stepping stone, but a person can get liberated in jhanas if they think of impermanence. So if they combine with insight, yes. But if they just do jhanas alone without any insight, according to Buddhist point of view, if they pass on, they get reborn in the Brahmā worlds. Because of the lack of insight, then they still come back, reborn back down to the lower realms. Okay, so we open the floor to Q&A. Any questions so far? So we kind of covered all the 60 overviews. So the next class, we'll probably be talking about the conclusion, what's the Buddha's take on not clinging to those views. So it will be the whole series on dependent origination. Okay, so we open the floor to Q&A. Any questions? All understand?
Bante?
Yes. Joshua.
Just now, Bante did mention regarding the scholars. They said the jhanas, the second jhanas, there would be no more thoughts already, is it?
The sustained and initial thoughts, yes.
So
Vitaka vichara.
So according to scholars, there won't be any movement of the minds towards the meditation object already, is it?
Yeah, that's how they interpret it.
I see. So in other words, the Rupa jhana, they still have thoughts that it's just in the background there and it's very mild, is it? Am I right?
So if you want to do some cross-referencing, why I mentioned there's still thoughts towards the meditation object, you can check this Dipa Sutta, DIPA. So mindfulness of the breathing, the Buddha talks about concentration using the breath. And the Buddha talks about all the levels of concentration, from the first all the way to the formless concentration, still need to be concentrating on this breathing.
I see. I see. Yeah, I think they're slightly different compared to certain scholars, because according to them, the Rupa second level start, you already cannot hear, already cannot. If I'm not mistaken, I may be wrong. From second level onwards, there will be no more thoughts. Even the background all still, and you cannot hear, and you don't feel your body anymore. That's what I was told.
Yeah, but so some people may describe that because they interpret as letting go of the meditation object. So if they let go of the meditation object, it's actually transiting to the formless concentration. So if let's say they are very, very absorbed, then that would be bonus if they cannot hear anything. But according to the definition of the jhanas, a person needs to be quite withdrawn from the senses, not totally withdrawn from the senses. So the senses are still there, just that we don't react with greed or anger.
I see. So in conclusion, we still can feel our body, and then we still can hear, we still can smell. It's just that we are not bothered, or we are not drawn into this smell, this sound.
Yeah, a person needs to maintain a level of skillfulness. So unskillfulness would be reacting with greed or anger.
I see. But in the jhana, definitely there will be no greed, there will be no anger anymore, right? At the jhana.
Still can, still clinging. That's why a person is not free from samsara.
I see. Understand. Okay.
So it may appear reduced, or it may appear not present, but a person in a very subtle way may cling to the peaceful state. Yeah.
You will cling to the peaceful jhana state, but you will not cling to the external state already. If they are in the jhana, they are in the jhana. I see. Okay. Understand. Okay. Thank you. Sadhu. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions? Okay, happy.
I have a question. So, there are some cases when, people, when they are, being used to the environment that are very crowded and very noisy, and then, so many nagging, things, and then suddenly, the mind can turn off itself into something like jing kind of movement. So, is it, have something to do with the jhana?
Hard to say. It may or may not be jhanic concentration. So if a person very skilled in closing off from all the external noise, because there are many types of concentration. So jhana is one of them. Like being closed off, not hearing the external sounds, like what Joshua was asking earlier. That is actually the mastery of the 4 bases of psychic power. So that's the visualization kind of practice that lead to concentration, which has nothing to do with jhanas. But some people may combine it with jhanas, but if you want to distinguish or separate it, and the practice of closing off or lowering the metabolism and all those kind of stuff, it's got to do with the visualizing part.
Visualizing part. Oh, I see. And the one that you said, combine the equanimity with insight, it will go into the realm of nothingness. That's mean the one that 5th jhana.
The realm of nothingness would be the 7th jhana, yes.
7th jhana.
The 3rd formless concentration.
And the one that you said, Buddhaka, Dhammaputa, the Buddha learned
Yeah,
from.
Udakaramaputa is this realm of nothingness, yes.
So,
the neither perception nor non-perception. So
So-
that's eighth level of concentration.
So, the monk that teach the Buddha, is it before the Buddha enlightened?
Pardon?
The Buddhaka Dhammaputa.
Udakaramaputa. He's not enlightened. He's not enlightened. Yeah.
But that means at that time the Gautama has not enlightened yet. She just
Not
he
yet.
just learned.
Yeah, not yet. So only after learning these two formless concentrations, then he went on to the extreme, torturing kind of ascetic practices. Huh?
And can I ask another question? Maybe like kind of in the Hinduism they have a Shiva and Krishna. Are they in the Brahma realm or like in the Deva realm?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Because it seems like the Hinduism they might talk about the Brahma realm, but in the different term, something like in the bottomless pit of something. Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay, but Ajahn, thank you.
All right, no problem. Okay, anyone else? Are there any questions? Okay, if there's no questions, we go for a 5-minute break and we come back for guided meditation. So see you all later in 5 minutes time.
Bante Mate.
Yes.
I need to leave the class at 9:30 because
Okay, no problem. No problem. Okay, can. Okay, so whoever's returned can turn on the camera so that I know that you're back. Alright, while waiting for the rest to return, those who are here, any issues, any questions?
Bante.
Yep.
Just wondering, right? In this era, right? Any, I mean, maybe Bante know or any like monks, they attain the jhanas that there is attained like during the Buddha's time, like the two what Udaka, Rama, Buddha, all this. Any monks that attain all these jhanas?
Okay, so I'm giving again my biased opinion would be the branch under this late Venerable Amata Gavesi. Yeah, so that system they have like the systematic lah, from the first jhana, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seven, eight lah. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Then what about the Phra Goh tradition? So far, Bante not familiar.
I don't want to comment, but again, if I want to talk about my personal opinion, most people who, let's say they want to do light nimitta samadhi, if they too focus on the light, they may not enter jhanas. They might enter another type of samadhi, which has to do with the iddhipada.
Okay. Because I was told this one, I'm not sure whether how true it is. People were telling me in this era, right, it's virtually, how to say, very, 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 very few. Maybe a 1 or 1,000 or 2,000 only can attain such kind of jhana, is it? Because now the meditation roots, the merit is very, very weak. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because there's a lot of reinvention. So like meditation technique, like any skill need to be passed down from teacher to student. So of course, if you do look out at the Buddhist history or the meditation movements, if there is like a reinvention and nobody taught the so-called pioneers of those reinvented movements how to do a particular style of meditation, that means something is lost somewhere lah. Okay, so this is my personal opinion. Okay.
Ajahn, I have a question.
Yep.
So what is Iddhipada, the one that you mentioned just now?
Iddhipada means the basis for psychic power.
Oh, basis of psychic power.
Yeah. So in the past, in the Buddha's time, would be just restricted to visualizations. Maybe after the Buddha's time, I would probably also include like chakras inside also. Those who do chakras, and they also might have developed certain abilities.
And Ajahn, like some people, they see other with the aura things. But I heard like aura is impermanent as well because it depends on the condition of the body. So is that true?
I'm not an expert in aura, but I believe it's like the vibration based on probably your intention, your state of being. So yes, the mind changes. So yeah, probably that will affect the aura also.
So what about like the Buddha light? Because some of them claim that the Buddha light is golden. Some say it's white. So what is the one in the sutta saying that the Buddha light colors?
Colors. So in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, it does mention golden.
Golden, yeah. And Ajahn, like this kind of the one you said dependent origination is the one mentioned in the Patana Sutta. So like Patana Sutta is the one Abhidhamma, Ajahn. So the purpose of the reciting Patana Sutta is always reminding of the impermanence.
Yeah, the main core teachings is always on impermanence lah.
So why they have like craving for sense pleasure kama tanha, craving for becoming bhava tanha, and then like craving for non-existent, the one you said vibhava tanha. So why there is a craving for non-existent? Is it like something like they want to suicide?
Craving for existence.
No, non-existent.
Craving for non-existence. Yeah, something like that. For example, if a person just wants blankness, don't want to have any thoughts appearing, so it's something like that, annihilation. So according to this Digha Nikaya, the Buddha mentioned the annihilation has 7 views, from totally nothing after death to formless concentrations. So if a person doesn't want to think in a meditation, then they might end up in that realm, in that being.
So how to test oneself? Like, just now you mentioned about the like formless meditation, like they get into the absorption too much, and then like, how do we know is it really into the absorption or it does off only?
So if there is still clinging signs of agitation, signs of frustration, signs of stress, that means the mind is still not totally free.
So the one that you said like clinging to feeling means like it's not enlightened yet, right?
Yep, not enlightened yet.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we are going.
Sorry,
Yes. All right, Joshua.
The Kassapa brothers and the Anuruddha, right? They all one visualize the fire, one visualize light, right? For them to, am I right?
Yep.
I see. So both of them practice the so-called the visualization one. Right?
Yeah, Iddhipadas. Yep.
I see. Okay, that's good.
So Venerable Sariputta can do all the jhanas, but he's like lacking of psychic abilities. Okay, alright, so let's start the meditation if there's no issue. So we mute the microphone to prevent the feedback or echoing. Okay, find a comfortable sitting posture. Make sure your back is upright and the rest of the body relaxed. So just nice today mention of the 4 great elements. So we're going to be mindful of the 4 great elements, part of mindfulness of the body. So what are these 4 elements? These are the earth, fire, wind, water elements. So in our routine, this one don't need to visualize anything. Just feel the sensations. So earth element represents any hard or soft sensations. And the fire element represents any hot and cold sensations. Then the wind element represents any kind of movement, fast or slow movement. Can be the breathing, can be the heart beating, whatever, any kind of movement. And the water element represents any kind of moist or dry sensations. So these are the 4 elements. So the idea behind is not to control or manipulate the elements. No. We are not doing any kind of air bending or anything. So we are actually learning to make peace with whatever element that appears. So we let it appear naturally by itself. And when something appears, any sensation appears, if we do not think of anything, what will happen is the mind will tend to cling to something else. If the sensation are very shock, then you have greed law. You tend to react with greed. If the sensations are unpleasant, painful, unpleasant, then you react with aversion, anger. So what we are doing here is we are going to try to follow the middle path as much as possible. We are first going to wish the sensations well and happy. So this to reduce greed, reduce anger. So any sensation appear, wish it well and happy. New sensation appear, wish it well and happy. Like greeting a customer like that. So wishing it well and happy is part of right thought in the Eightfold Path. The repetition is part of right effort. That means you do not stop after wishing it well and happy. Keep on continuing the phrase like a mantra. And we synchronize with the sensation. So it's not just purely like chanting. We also need to feel the sensation. That means ground ourselves with the mindfulness of the body, which are the 4 elements. And the more you keep wishing the sensations well and happy, then you can also observe the state of mind. So the 4 elements, mindfulness of the body, right? So we also have mindfulness of mind. So is the mind getting calmer or getting more agitated? So if the mind is getting calmer, that means you are on the right track. If there's more tension, more agitation, that means something is wrong. Huh? So if a person do nothing and fall asleep, also calm the mind down, but we are not doing that. So it is not the skillful way of calming. And then your challenge is to see how far can the mind settle down. Is there like a maximum limit to the mind calming down? So no matter how calm it is, again, no clinging to annihilationism. That means keep on wishing the sensations well and happy. We keep on turning the Dhamma wheel, middle path. Okay, so if you find that the mind quite settled down, like it cannot come down any further, or the rate of settling is negligible, then we call this your neutral baseline emotion. No jhanas or anything yet, this is just a neutral state. So wishing oneself well and happy is a very like selfish kind of loving kindness, very restricted kind of loving kindness. So we take note of this emotion as a reference point for comparison. So if you want to learn how to differentiate the different jhanas, first you need to take note of these different emotions first. So this is level 0, nothing, kosong. Okay, so now we are going to cultivate boundless loving kindness. We are going to wish, may all beings in all directions well and happy, above, below, and all across. All directions. May all beings be well and happy. Don't have to purposely push the mind. Let the mind extend naturally by itself. However far it wishes to extend doesn't matter. And in that widened area of attention, we are going to perceive all beings as the four elements. Don't have to visualize how they look like, no storytelling, no imagination. So use the lowest common denominator, all beings made of the four elements. So whatever sensation appear, this time round our mantra would be to wish all beings well and happy. So any sensation appear, may all beings be well and happy. They can appear inside the body, they may appear outside the body. Whatever sensation you perceive, then we need to keep wishing, may all beings be well and happy. So we try to withdraw from the senses as much as possible. That means don't overthink, no imagination. So we ground ourselves to the four elements and keep on wishing, may all beings be well and happy. As you start to imagine or visualize some creature that look very scary, then again you have certain biasness, certain emotion. If you think of a certain creature that look very cute, and again different biasness, different emotion. So you try to avoid that. Yes, back to the four elements. Keep on wishing, may all beings be well and happy. Okay, and if the conditions are right, you keep on wishing, may all beings be well and happy, and the right thought, right effort, everything, and it will trigger the right concentration. So usually loving kindness may lead one to the first level of concentration. So if there's any increment in some joy and happiness compared to the neutral baseline emotion from earlier, then that would be the indicator for the first level of concentration. And regardless of what you experience, keep on wishing, may all beings be well and happy. Do not suddenly stop thinking, then that will be clinging to something else, either clinging to annihilation or clinging to becoming. Stay with the middle path, keep turning the Dhamma wheel, keep on wishing, may all beings be well and happy. Okay, and once you have a short glimpse of this first level of concentration, so we remember this emotion first. Okay, then we switch to the second sublime state, which is compassion. So for compassion, we are going to wish, may all beings be free from suffering. Also using the same non-discrimination approach, no imagination. So we stick to the 4 elements. And we keep on wishing, may all beings be free from suffering. So the conventional compassion is to worry for people. I need to plan it, to imagine how are they okay, how to help them. So this one is very draining one. Yeah, it may solve external problem, but very draining. But if you overdo it, then become depression. So now we learn the compassion to ourselves also, learn to recharge the mind. So we temporarily don't imagine anything, come back to the 4 elements and keep on wishing, may all beings be free from suffering. Okay, and if the conditions are right, keep on wishing, may all beings be free from suffering. Then one may experience this second level of concentration. Again, indicated by some joy and happiness. And in fact, if it's the second level of concentration, the joy and happiness kind of will appear clearer than the first level of concentration, clearer than the loving kindness one. Whereas the conventional compassion will be just very sorrowful, very sad, and the concentrated kind of compassion, more joyful. And you slowly appreciate why Kuan Yin is depicted smiling, why the Buddha is depicted smiling, and you don't see them pulling a long face. And the same thing, regardless of what you experience, keep on wishing, may all beings be well and happy, keep turning the Dhamma wheel. Do not suddenly stop thinking and cling to something else. Okay, then we take note of this emotion. If let's say you have the second level of concentration, then we can remember it first. Okay, then we jump to the third sublime state, which is appreciative joy, and we are going to rejoice with all beings. So using the lowest common denominator, all beings, every moment, every second, will gain a new experience. So every time a sensation appears, then we can rejoice with all beings. So any element appear, rejoice with all beings. Any element appear, rejoice with all beings. So this one don't have to wait for somebody to strike lottery or get promotion. You can do it every moment. Okay, if you keep on rejoicing with all beings and the conditions are right, this appreciative joy may lead one to the third level of concentration, indicated by a different pleasant emotion. So that difference would be the disappearance of joy. So what's ever left will be happiness and some equanimity. So the conventional rejoicing is, you celebrate and party, somebody graduate or somebody got promotion. So that's exhilaration. No? So equanimity don't have this kind of excitement. So regardless of what you experience, same thing, keep turning the Dhamma wheel. Keep on rejoicing with all beings. Okay, and once we have a glimpse of this third level of concentration, we kind of remember how it feels like, and we are switching to the fourth sublime state, which is equanimity. So in this sublime state, we are using the subject of karma, reflecting on karma. All beings are subject to karma. We reap what we sow. So this routine don't require imagination also. Do not speculate, in the past I've done this or that. So no speculating. So what we are doing is every time a sensation appears, that's actually old karma's ripening. So whatever appears by itself needs to have a past cause, but we don't need to know the story behind the past cause. We just need to acknowledge old karma's ripening. So if any pleasant sensation appears, probably that's good karma's ripening. Any unpleasant sensation appear, bad karma's ripening. Any neutral sensation appear, neutral karma's ripening. So in short, you just need to label karma's ripening. So keep on reciting, karma's ripening, sensation appear, karma's ripening. Okay, and if, let's say, the mind is more accepting of karma, the conditions are right, keep on reciting karma's ripening, and one may experience a neutral but refreshing kind of emotion, no more joy, no more happiness, and this neutral feeling is not the normal neutral, it's a more condensed kind of neutral. So we call that equanimity. So that's the indicator for the fourth level of concentration. And the same thing, regardless of what you experience, keep on turning the Dhamma wheel, keep on reciting karma's ripening. Okay, so the purpose of this equanimity is to strengthen or recharge this mindfulness, because the normal neutral feeling very flimsy. Different feelings appear, pleasant, unpleasant feelings appear, then the neutral feeling gone. So this neutrality can kind of last for a while. It's also impermanent but lasts kind of slightly longer. So we're going to make use of this recharge state to reflect or do some investigation. So we're going to observe how these 5 aggregates, how they appear, how they arise, how they pass away, without you controlling. So this sensation, we let it appear by themselves. So when they appear, all 5 aggregates are there. So the 4 elements are the form aggregate, the feelings, whether you like it, don't like it, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, so that's the feeling aggregate. The names that you call the experience, you call this the earth element, or you call this unpleasant feeling, so that's the perception aggregate. And anything that appears, anything that's formed, that's the mental formation aggregate. And eventually the attention itself, that is the consciousness aggregate. So our mantra now, we are going to use rising and passing. So instead of saying karma's ripening, now we say rising and passing. So whatever you observe, you just synchronize with rising and passing. Don't have to control the sensation, you just observe as it is. So at the sidelines, you're like taking notes like that. So this note taking is rising and passing. So make sure you can hear yourself in the mind saying rising and passing. Once you don't hear yourself, the right thought is gone, then that means the mind is wrong thoughts lah. If you cannot catch the mind, make sure you just feel the 4 elements will do. The rest of the 5 aggregates will be there. You need some obvious sensation, that's why we call it mindfulness of the body, the grounding. This is now the tug of war phase. Whenever you think of rising and passing, then Team Buddha is pulling the ropes. And once you stop thinking of rising and passing, then Team Mara is pulling. Okay, before we conclude the session, same gentle reminder in all activities, whether we're standing, sitting, walking or lying down, we can be mindful of impermanence or mindful of the sublime states, and with that we can gently open our eyes, formally end the session, informally keep generating right thought. Okay, any questions from anyone? No issue, no problem, all okay. Okay, then if there's no issues, and we move on to the concluding chant, is dedicating merits. Akasatha ca bhumata devanaga mahitika Punyang tang anumoditva cirang rakhantu loka sasanang etavata ca amhehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe deva sabbe bhuta sabbe sata anumodantu sabba sampati siddhiya. Dedicating merits to departed. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Aspiration. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo. Satang samagamo hotu. Yavani bana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, and we end off with bowing to the Buddha 3 times. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Yeah, so any announcements from Terence?
Only next week, no class, Monday.
Yeah, next to no class. So the following week, which is the last Tuesday of the month, would be the last lesson for the year. And December, no more Tuesday class. And we'll be restarting again on Jan, right, Terence? Yeah, so
Yes,
yep,
Bhante.
that's it. And nothing else. And good night.
Thank you, Bhante.
See you all the following week.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay,
Good night.
Good night.
all right. Good night. Good